for us, our North Star was just making sure that we were not just playing defense by running a lean, mean organization coming into the halving, but also playing offense and expanding the business as well. And we were able to successfully do that. And again, like I said, I don't think the market realizes that, but it will eventually.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Bitcoin Equities Talks, where we interview CEOs of companies building on the Bitcoin network. And today I have with me Sam from BitDigital. So can you introduce yourself, Sam, and tell us a little bit about BitDigital?
Sure. I'm Sam Tabar. I'm CEO of BitDigital. We're a NASDAQ listed company. Our ticker is BTBT. And we have operations. We have operations involving Bitcoin mining and also AI. Both are very significant. Our operations span in North America, that being the United States, Canada, and also Iceland. And we have offices around the world. New York being our headquarter, and Singapore being our second biggest office.
Okay, interesting. So you mentioned Bitcoin mining and AI. Last time I checked, there was also some Ethereum staking. Did you stop
That's
that?
right. No, we haven't. We have a very unique business model in that we take a lot of our Bitcoin mining revenue and we buy Ethereum with that. And with the Ethereum, we stake the Ethereum. And from the yield of the staking, we pour that back into our Bitcoin mining operations, essentially creating this flywheel, this perpetual flywheel. It's a business model that we've invented, and it's worked out very well for us. In a way, it's interesting. Many people are choosing BTBT to get staking economics exposure. And the reason for that is staking as a service is currently very controversial in the United States, as you're aware. And so you can't really stake as a service properly, but you could stake for yourself. So we have been staking for ourselves, and a lot of shareholders are buying BTBT to get that staking economics because we're doing that for ourselves. We're not doing that for them, but they could still get that exposure indirectly since we're involved in that activity.
What you mean by BTBT is your
Our
equity
ticker.
ticker. Yeah.
Yes, that's right, on NASDAQ.
Okay. So that's quite unique in your business model compared to all the other companies that we're holding in our equities ETF, that you're mixing between Bitcoin and Ethereum. How and why did you choose Ethereum, and what's your rationale? We rarely see people going one and the other. Most of the time we see either Bitcoin maxis or strong Bitcoin believers, or more crypto in general believers. This is quite unique in your value proposition. Can you tell us a little bit more about your conviction there?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple of unique things. One of them is certainly the one you're outlining in terms of our belief that 1 + 1 = 3. And what I mean by that is Bitcoin plus Ethereum, you could actually create a very interesting formula. As mentioned, we take Bitcoin mining profit, we put that into Ethereum, we take the Ethereum, we stake the Ethereum, then we take the rewards from the Ethereum and pour that back into Bitcoin mining operations. And the reason for that is you can't stake your Bitcoin. And so when you have Bitcoin on the balance sheet, it just stays there. And of course, we keep a very material amount of Bitcoin on our balance sheet, but we take a portion of that and we put that into Ethereum. Not only does Ethereum have also capital gains, but it has the ability to throw off yield through something called staking. And so it's good to work our balance sheet. We believe in working our balance sheet, not just keeping Bitcoin on your balance sheet and doing nothing. Although we do have a very sizable amount of Bitcoin, it's important to work your balance sheet. And we've taken a portion of that Bitcoin, converted to Ethereum and staked it, and we pour that back into our operations. So that's definitely one unique thing that we've done. Also, another unique thing that we've done is we're the first one in the sector to have a very meaningful AI business. We've announced on Monday that we are now in the AI business. We've locked in a customer with revenues of 35 million, at least on the low end. And so this positions us extremely well for the halving because our business in AI is locked in revenue, locked in profits, and it's agnostic and does not matter where the direction of Bitcoin goes. So coming into the halving, if for whatever reason Bitcoin ends up being at 20,000, there's going to be a lot of Bitcoin miners that are going to go out of business because their strategy is hope. They just hope that Bitcoin goes up, which is not a good strategy when you're running a business. So we really took great care to make sure that we got involved in businesses that were completely uncorrelated, were sizable, and were locked in. And so we've locked in a massive piece of AI business that more than covers all our expenses and is now an extremely sizable part of our business. So we're very happy about scoring that business, that it's locked in, and we are the first ones in the sector, frankly, to have such a sizable business in AI. And by sector, I mean Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the headline, but I didn't know that you had actually secured it. We saw a lot of
Yeah,
miners. Yeah,
a
there's a
lot
lot
of
of
people just announce.
announcements.
Yeah, they're just announcements, they're aspirations. We made sure, and I don't think the market understands, we did not just announce an aspiration. We actually purchased a fleet of computer clusters, which are equipped with NVIDIA H100 GPUs. We take these supercomputers, we have a tier three data center, and this is in service of a customer. We actually have a customer contract. So it's not just buying a bunch of NVIDIA chips and hoping that a business will come. We actually have a business, and we're financing the initial 1,056 GPU purchase with a mix of cash on hand and digital assets. And this is going to be all deployed in a tier three data center, and the revenues will start kicking in as of January. So the pricing and total value of the contract will be determined on the contract term, but we have a minimum of 1,024 GPUs, and we expect to generate approximately 23 to 27 million at a minimum in annual revenue. And the maximum contract value exceeds $250 million in revenue. There is absolutely no company that has this type of business in our sector. And I don't think the market really understands or realizes that, but they will once we post the revenue numbers starting January.
Okay, wow, that's very impressive. Can you tell me a little bit more about the logic between combining your traditional expertise with this new AI expertise? Because from my understanding, the AI part is more technical, very specialized type of service. Very like it's the difference between building a Fiat or building a Lamborghini on when you compare Bitcoin mining to operating an AI data center. I mean, that's my understanding. How were you able to switch from Fiat Cinquecento to a Lamborghini?
That's really funny. It's a very good analogy. Our core competencies as a Bitcoin miner is sourcing the most efficient data center locations and partners and procuring cost-effective machines. So that's something we understand very well. We were able to apply those skills towards launching Bit Digital AI with minimal incremental capital dedicated to the business. So we were able to secure a customer contract without any massive dedicated sales force. We're a small company, but we have very deep relationships. And those relationships we were able to monetize by getting this massive client. And there is more to come. But we were able to do that. And we were able to lock in a binding contract in relation to this. And for us, our North Star was just making sure that we were not just playing defense by running a lean, mean organization coming into the halving, but also playing offense and expanding the business as well. And we were able to successfully do that. And again, like I said, I don't think the market realizes that, but it will eventually.
And going back to the comparison between the two, within the AI space, are there like different type of specialities or client catering that you targeted, or it was just a big AI project and you won an RFP for it? How does it work basically to switch from it? Because it's like for me two complete different industries.
Well, like I said, we have the ability and experience and skill set to source proper data centers. That's something that Bitcoin miners do. We have the ability and skill set to achieve effective procurement, which that's something we were always able to do. And the most important and most critical and hard thing for any Bitcoin miner or any business really to make an AI business actually work, that's real, that's not just aspirational, is the client. And normally you have thousands of people in a sales force looking for these types of clients. And we were able to find that because we're a global organization. We're not just a Bitcoin miner with a bunch of offices in the United States. We have offices around the world and Singapore. And in these regions, particularly in Southeast Asia and so on, this is an underserved market. And so we were able to use our relationships to get these clients, and this client in particular, but there's more to come. And so that's one of the biggest hurdles in creating an AI business is basically the client. That's the biggest hurdle. And we were able to lock that in, not just find and source the client, but we were able to lock in a binding contract at a minimum of about 25 million per year, but we're going to upsize this.
Okay, awesome.
Just think about that. That puts us in probably I just don't see any other miner in our sector actually able to pull this off. And now not only are we coming in very strong into the halving, but we're flourishing.
Okay, and why didn't you go to compete with other data centers like the hosting and YouTubes and Googles of the world and Amazon? What's the specificities about AI that made you go there instead of going to traditional data center operations?
We're selecting a tier 3 data center that will soon be announced. And this tier 3 data center has the ability to make sure that we can take on even more as the business expands. That was important for us. But each customer has their own requirements when it comes to where their data centers need to be. And for this one, we were able to offer a customized solution towards what they needed. It's not a one size fits all when it comes to clients and their AI specifications.
Okay, I see. We stepped maybe a lot into the business model of Bit Digital, but perhaps you should have started by your background and your
Sure,
convictions.
sure. I
What
don't find
led
my
to
background
them?
very interesting, but I'm happy to just spend a minute on it. I'm a Canadian guy who. Do you want me to go in? I'll try and make it very short. I'm Canadian. I went to university in England to Oxford, and then I went to Columbia Law School. I started my career in New York as an attorney in New York City. And I spent a number of years sleeping under a desk, slaving away as a lawyer for a law firm called Skadden Arps, which is I think, the largest law firm in the United States. And I was focused on mergers and acquisitions. I was in that particular group. This particular law firm was really well known for that practice. And then one of my clients was a Japanese hedge fund, and after a while, they asked me to join. The Japanese hedge fund asked me to join and move to Tokyo, and which I did as in-house counsel in Japan. It was basically an alternative investment management platform in Tokyo, and I did that for a number of years. I stayed with them for about 7 years and ended up running marketing for the investment management group in Japan. And after a while, I was poached by Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. They asked me to run their capital strategy for all of Asia Pacific, which I did for a number of years. And then I moved back to New York, and I co-founded a blockchain company in the Ethereum space. It was called Fluidity, and we created a product called AirSwap. And AirSwap went viral. We were basically one of the first to invent the concept of a decentralized exchange in the Ethereum ecosystem. And we had pretty incredible backers like Mike Novogratz, who's the CEO and founder of Galaxy Digital, Brock Pierce, Bill Tai, and a number of very well-known notables. And we ended up selling AirSwap and Fluidity to Consensus. Consensus is the largest Ethereum studio in the world. and was founded by one of the co-founders of Ethereum called Joe Lubin. In fact, Joe Lubin was one of our backers as well. So we ended up selling that to Joe Lubin's group. And then I was approached by Bit Digital. They were looking for a management team in North America, and I was more than happy to help with that effort. And I'm currently CEO of Bit Digital. And one of the earliest things that we did at Bit Digital was, at the time when I joined, most of the fleet was actually in China. This was before the Bitcoin mining ban that was announced in China. And that was a jurisdictional risk for the co-founders and management. And so we migrated the entire fleet from China into North America because of that jurisdictional risk. And during the migration of our fleet, China announced the ban of Bitcoin mining. So we were very lucky to have started that migration of the fleet into North America. Fortunately, we had all the arrangements in North America to receive all our entire fleet, and so we had that premonition, and that DNA of jurisdictional diversification is very much in our philosophy when it comes to our operations. We currently have operations in Iceland. We have operations in various states in New York, like Kentucky and New York. So we have a number of operations in the United States, and we have operations in Canada. And so that kind of jurisdictional risk is very important for us because we have already lived through a situation where the the rug was pulled from under us in terms of a ban on Bitcoin mining. And so it's important to be having your operations in various countries in order to hedge that jurisdictional risk, because unfortunately, Bitcoin and crypto, it tends to be weaponized for political purposes. And I'm sure we'll probably get into some of those points later in the call. But unfortunately, these politicians who are pretty old and probably don't know how to turn on a computer have these very strong opinions about Bitcoin and crypto, and they talk about very inaccurate things about crypto being something that's nefarious when it's really not. It's just an accounting innovation, and Bitcoin is actually the first global currency in a way. It's digital gold, and it's much more environmentally friendly than gold. If you look at the activity of gold mining, you see mountaintops being raised and children being used in order to lift gold out of the ground in these developing countries. Isn't it much more environmentally sound to use Bitcoin as a proxy to gold in order to hedge your inflation bets? Because that's what gold is normally used for. People buy gold in order to hedge their inflation or to hedge macro risks. But Bitcoin is a much better substitute for actual gold. And so I'm very hopeful that the younger generations, particularly Gen Z and the millennials, they're eventually going to be constructing portfolios for family offices and so on. And they would have normalized crypto, they would have normalized Bitcoin, and they'll be using Bitcoin in their portfolio management as a way to hedge inflation, as opposed to the current generation of baby boomers and some people in Gen X that are currently using actual gold as a way to inflate, as a way to hedge their inflation bets. So I'm hopeful structurally on the upside of Bitcoin because the younger generation would have already normalized crypto, and the older generation will die out. But I do think there's going to be cyclical gyrations of the value of Bitcoin and Ethereum and so on, because that's just the way it works when it comes to the markets.
Okay, so you talked a lot about Bitcoin, but what about the other
Ethereum,
cryptos? Yeah, like
yeah,
Ethereum and maybe others. I find it interesting that you have a background where you have touched traditional finance, but
yes.
as well other cryptos, and getting deep into Bitcoin as you are now. So, fast forward 10 years from now, where do you see the whole crypto space going or moving?
Yeah, as you mentioned, my background, it was in traditional finance. I started my career as a lawyer at a very well-known law firm, and then I was heading capital strategy for Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and I was responsible for the Asia Pacific region. So I'm very familiar with traditional finance, And I was very disenchanted during my career on how we purposely made money off the friction of the financial system. The financial system, in a way, is rigged. And all the frictions, all the little difficulties of shuffling money around, bankers were basically making money off that. And blockchain was a solution towards all that friction. And that's why that technology really excited me. But of course, there are many people in traditional finance are completely threatened by blockchain because it disintermediates a lot of the financial system. If you look at Ethereum, for example, Ethereum has something called smart contracts. There is an underlying technology called atomic swaps. And with that kind of technology with Ethereum, which Ethereum has that Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin is simply a stored value. To think of Bitcoin as digital gold. Ethereum has something called smart contracts. In other words, if then statements. So if I, for example, you could program an Ethereum smart contract where if you give me 10 bananas, I will give you zero point 0.3 Ethereum. You could actually program that. And you don't need a bank in order to hold that exchange. You don't need lawyers to actually create the contract. You could actually program that in the Ethereum blockchain. That's very powerful. If you can create if then statements to exchange value without lawyers and bankers, you could see why traditional finance and lawyers are threatened by blockchain because it disintermediates their entire existence. It also disintermediates accountants because you don't need to audit the blockchain. The blockchain is for everybody to see. Auditing that tends to happen because a lot of opaque systems are happening and you need accountants to basically verify who is saying what. But with blockchain, it's all transparent. You could just go on the internet and you could see the transaction. So it's a very revolutionary technology. A lot of people are not ready for it, but the younger generation have normalized it. And I think in years, it will become a more prevalent and normalized use of technology.
I really like what you described, and I wanted to challenge you a little bit on it, especially knowing that you have a lawyer's background. I do share the same excitement as you have in the smart contract and all the crypto capabilities. I love NFTs, for example, and all this stuff. I do believe that Bitcoin can, not as good, but in a way evolve into integrating these functions. And there are some companies building these type of solutions. But for me, all these solutions, when you go to if then, you transform the underlying from a commodity to a derivatives or to a financial product, and then you get they regulate the shit out of you basically, because we've tried, there have been like so many regulations and rules and jurisdictions out there that forbids you to put if then, because if then it means options, it means forwards, it means so
Yeah,
many
but
stuff.
you could Ethereum can rewrite the entire financial system. You know that the if then is the power that scares a lot of lawyers, bankers, and so on because they were the ones in control of the if then. But if you have if then completely transparent in a code, and these conditions can be met, the if then conditions for the value exchange to happen, you're going to put a lot of people out of business. And so, like you said, a lot of regulatory action against this kind of power. Why? Not because I believe it's not because they're trying to protect the consumer. They're actually trying to protect legacy finance, and that's why you see a lot of legacy finance funding, a lot of lobbying, a lot of politicians to push these regulations. These regulations are not meant, I believe, necessarily to protect Joe Schmo. They're meant to protect the fat cats of the banking system.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about politics, and this is also like a question mark that I still are not able to answer about all these bad political pressure on the whole crypto space that still today, like, I mean, maybe
Oh,
in
look,
the early years you can expect
I
some.
could understand. I could understand the threat from their point of view. If you look at the average age of Congress, So I think it's in the mid 60s, which I believe that's when you're supposed to retire. And there are a lot of leaders in our political system that are very they just don't. Not only do they not understand crypto, they don't want to understand crypto. They're very comfortable in their old world. So there is this like psychological reaction against this new technology. I mean, a
And
lot of these people don't even tweet their own tweets.
and there's the political side, but also you have a very good layout or very good follow up of this resistance by the traditional media. I mean, with the events going on in Israel and Palestine, there was the Wall Street Journal that was publishing an article saying that crypto was used to finance Hamas, when the reality is completely different. Like Hamas did a asset raising campaign using Bitcoin and cryptos, but they got seized, and actually it backfired on them, and all the donors, because of the blockchain, were being traced, and their assets at exchange platforms were seized. So it's actually the opposite. Crypto is the best tool to fight these kinds of illegal activities in general, but at the same time, you still see traditional legacy medias reporting on it as if it wasn't the case. So, when do you think this will stop?
I think eventually it will stop. I think there's a lot of clickbait articles out there that are trying to create fear and hate. This is the way the media operates. Let's just take a step back on the business model of media. The business model of media is basically advertisement, and the only way you can justify high advertisement rates is by showing traffic. And the only way to increase traffic is to put headlines that alarm people. And bad news, unfortunately, catches the human mind's attention more than good news. In fact, there is science that bad news captures 10 times more of your mindscape than good news. And there is a Darwinian reason for that. It's survival. You have to be careful of danger more than you have to be careful of good stuff. That's how our organisms exist. And so because bad news is a much more gathers much more attention, bad news being defined as fear. And so they create these headlines. The human mind clicks on the title, and this creates the traffic, the eyeballs, in order for the news organization to show the people who are advertising on their platform, hey, look, we have a million eyeballs coming through our traffic. We're going to charge you this much amount because we have a lot of traffic. And so that's the business model. So I don't blame the media. I blame that's the advertising business model. They will do whatever it takes to create high traffic. And the only way to create high traffic and eyeballs is to create fear and loathing headlines. And so Bitcoin becomes this like cheap shot in order to create that headline.
So you
So
don't
anyway,
blame the media, you blame the politicians that are supposed to do their job and study the technology and the pros and cons and have a
yeah,
more
but I don't
thoughtful
have very
process.
high hope in the politicians, the current politicians studying the technology. I don't see, for example, the president of the United States, studying blockchain and understanding it. To be honest, but I could be wrong. But there's still hope. You see people like institutional finance going into Bitcoin. You see BlackRock now. You've seen the ETF announcements, and eventually, despite all these negative headlines, Bitcoin at this point is now at a $500 million, $600 million market cap. And I believe when it comes to market cap that it will replace gold. And gold is currently $12 trillion in market cap. So Bitcoin has a way to go to catch up to gold. There's no reason for gold to be at its market cap now. And there's lots of reasons why Bitcoin should be much bigger than it is now because it's a proxy to gold. So I think that the very smart people in traditional finance are beginning to get it. That's why BlackRock is getting to the business, and eventually, this will become very institutionalized. And we've seen a run up in the price of Bitcoin recently to reflect that sentiment.
Yeah, I was about to ask you what the Bitcoin price projection, but you just answered it, like replacing gold. Okay. Thanks a lot for your time, Sam. It was a very nice discussion, and congrats for this huge AI move. I look
Thank you.
forward to following your company and maybe hop on another chat if you have any other news coming our way.
Thank you so much for having me.